Hello everyone, welcome to Tutorials by Decade. My name is Decade, and in this video we are going to start working on getting a UI going. So yeah, let's just hop right into it. But before we do actually, if you've liked any of my other videos and you like this video, make sure you give it the big old thumbs up. I do appreciate it. It does help me out. And don't forget to subscribe, as I have videos like this coming out all the time and I don't want you to miss anything, because that can get a little chaotic and hectic if you miss a video. So yeah, be sure to subscribe, and it does help me and I appreciate it, so thank you. Now that that's out of the way, let's get to working on that UI. So all we're going to do for now is just get a health bar, and we're just going to do a simple one. Later on we can add some graphics to it and make it fit the style, but for now we're just going to get a working health bar. So the first thing we need to do is nothing for the canvas, because we already have a canvas. I forgot that we had we worked on the dialog box, but you know what? We're going to do another canvas anyway. So we're going to right click and we're going to go to UI, and then we're going to go to canvas, and we're just going to set this to UI. Then what we're going to do is over here where it says canvas scaler, we're going to scale a screen size, set our reference to 1920 by 1080, so high definition. And reference pixels per unit we'll set to 16. That should be what the other one is set to. No, it's set to 100, but that's okay. That's fine. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to right click on UI, and we're going to go to UI, and we're going to go to slider. And we'll name this one health bar. And you can see when we did that, it already put some children underneath health bar, background fill area and handle slide area. We don't need the handle slide area, so you can highlight that and hit delete and get rid of that. For the background, first let's double click on UI so that way we see the whole thing there, and you can see our little bar. So for the background, what we're going to do is we're going to click on that, we're going to go to color, and we're just going to change that to black. And then fill area has a little child of its own called the fill. We're going to click on that, and we're going to change that color to red. Then we're going to go to our health bar. And down here, we want to see first direction left to right, which it should be default to that, but just in case, you can change that to left to right. The minimum value to 0, maximum value to 1. We do not want whole numbers, so make sure that's unchecked. And we can default the value to 1, so we have a somewhat fill bar. English apparently is difficult for me right now. But as you can see, even though we are at 1, which is the highest value, we are not completely filled. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the fill area. And you notice the little box for the fill area is not the same size as the background. So what we're going to do is we're just going to click that, and we're just going to drag it till it fills it. So something like that. And that's all we need to do. And now we should be set to actually start coding in some of our code in order to get this health bar to work. Well, obviously we need to move the health bar to where it needs to go. So let's do that first. So first let's size it. I found that 480 by 60 is a good size. So if you go to the game screen, that's a pretty good size there. Obviously we don't want that dead center, so what I found works is negative 675 on the X and positive 495 on the Y. And if we go to our game mode, it puts it right up in the upper left hand corner. Obviously your game, you can put it wherever you want. Traditionally health bars are in the upper left hand corner, but again, you can put it in the upper right hand corner, as there are some games that do that. As long as it's in one of the corners, you should be okay, but for this case, we're going to go upper left-hand corner. Now we should be all set and ready to actually do some coding. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our scripts. We're going to right-click, we're going to create, we're going to do a folder, and we're just going to put UI. I just wanted to make sure we didn't already have a UI somewhere. In the UI folder, we're going to create another folder, and we're just going to do health bar. And in the health bar, we're going to right click, we're going to go to create mono behavior script. We are going to name this health bar UI. Then while we're here, we're going to right click, create another mono behavior script. And we're going to name this one player health bar UI. And let me just make sure I did that right. Oh, I did not. This one was supposed to be, we'll just delete this one. It's sometimes easier to delete a script if you haven't done anything in it yet and then just create a new one than it is to try to rename things. So what we're going to do is we're just going to recreate it, mono behavior script, and this is going to be player health UI binder. So once Unity does its thing here, we're actually going to open up the health bar UI first. And what we're going to do is get rid of all this. And then we're also going to put up here using Unity engine.ui. It's probably going to grayed out because we haven't done anything yet with the UI, but we will here very shortly. Then we're going to do header, slider, and then tooltip, the health bar itself, and then serialize the field, and private slider, health slider. Then down here, we're going to do tooltip, the fill, and then serialize that field, private image, fill image. Then we're going to do some optional smoothing to smooth the animation of the health bar going up and down. In this case, just down. We'll be working on increasing the health bar and all that other stuff here later. But for now, we're going to do header, optional smoothing, and then tooltip, should we smooth? That should be a question mark. And then serialize field, private, bool, smooth, and we'll default that to true for right now. And then tooltip, the speed at which smoothing occurs. And then serialize that field, and then private float, smooth speed, and we'll default that to 10F for right now. And then the last thing we need to do is just have a private float target value, and we'll default that to 1. So now that we got our variables out of the way, let's get working on actually coding some things. So private void awake. And then we're going to check for the health slider. So we have it set that we can manually put it in there. But just in case, we'll put in some code here to automatically get it. So health slider equals get component slider. Oh. And then boom. So there we go. So that's all we need to do, but we're going to put another check in here just in case. So if health slider is still null, meaning it's not there and doesn't exist, then we're going to do a debug.log error. And then I like to put the name of the script in here. So health bar UI. Unable to find a health bar slider. And then what we're going to do, while still in awake, we're going to check for the fill image. So if fill image equals null, but, well, we're going to do and. The health slider is not null, meaning we found the health slider. And the health slider dot fill rect is not null, meaning that all those things exist, which they do. Well, the health slider, we're going to get it to exist with this little bit of code up here if we don't put it in manually. And then the health slider dot fill rect is the actual fill in Unity. I'll show you that here in a minute. So if there is a health slider, we should have the fill rect, but just in case, we're going to check. So if that stuff is all null, meaning, or if the fill image is null, but we do have a health slider, then we are going to get that fill image by doing fill image equals health slider dot fill rect dot get component image. So my Visual Studio already figured out what we were trying to do. And then just like earlier, we're going to check. So if fill image is still null, then we're going to throw a debug log error, and then health bar UI unable to find fill image. So now we have two little catches just in case we forget to manually put them in. The code is going to try to put them in itself, and if for whatever reason it can't, we'll have some errors that pop up and we know what to do from there. So that's all we need to do for awake. So now we need to do a private void update. So in here, we're going to check if the health slider is null, then we're just going to simply return. And then we're also going to do if not smooth, meaning we're not smoothing, then we're also just going to return. And then the health bar will still go up and down, but it won't be smooth. It'll just jump to wherever it needs to go. But if we are smoothing, I should say, so else, what we're going to do is health slider dot value equals mathf dot lerp. Ignore my phone. And then we're going to put a line here. Hit enter to put a line in, and we're going to do health slider dot value, and comma, and then another enter for a line, target value, comma, enter for a line, time dot delta time times smooth speed. And then just to make it a clean look, we're going to hit enter. And then after that bracket or parentheses, we're just going to put the semicolon, and then there we go. So to explain what we're doing here, obviously we're checking to see if there's a health slider. If there's not, then we're not going to do anything. Then we're going to check to see if smooth is checked or unchecked. If it's unchecked, meaning it's false, then we're not going to do anything. But if it is checked, what we're going to do here is we're going to change the health slider to the value of our current health, which we'll get to here in a minute. But we're going to smooth it. So instead of just jumping from wherever it needs to be, it'll actually slide up or down to wherever it needs to be. So that's why we're doing the smoothing. But again, the smoothing is optional. If you want, you can uncheck smoothing in Unity. Whenever we get there, I'll show you, and then it'll jump. So now we need to actually set the health. So we're going to do public void set health, but we're going to need an int for current, and then we're going to need an int for max. And what we're going to do here is if health slider is null or max is less than or equal to 0. Which obviously at this point we shouldn't have either of those happening, but again, we're just putting in that check. So we're just going to return and do absolutely nothing. Now for both of these returns, like here, here, and for this return, you can put a debug log or debug log error if you want. really it's not necessary, especially for the smoothing one, seeing how that's an option that you can manually change in Unity. But you could if you wanted to, but you don't have to. So once that is done, what we're going to do is we're going to set the target value to equal mathf dot clamp 01. So in case you don't know the difference between clamp and clamp 01, if you highlight it, it clamps between a value between 0 and 1, whereas clamp will clamp between whatever values that you manually set. So we want our values to be between 0 and 1, so we're doing clamp 01. And then in here, what we're going to do float current divided by max. So what we're doing here is we're taking our current health and changing it to a float instead of an int. And then we're going to divide it by the max. And that's how we're going to get our sub values that we're going to use for our bar. We're going to then check if current is less than or equal to 0. Then we're going to manually set target value to 0. That way it snaps it to 0 and it's not going to accidentally do some math and get like 0.001 or some weird stuff like that. We're also going to check if the current is greater than or equal to max, and if so, then we're going to set our target value to 1. That should be a 0f, not 0. But we're going to set our target value to 1f, meaning we're going to snap it to 1. Again, just in case the math does something weird and we get like 0.999 or whatever. Then what we're going to do is if the fill image is not null, meaning we have one, then we're going to do fill image.enabled. And instead of true or false, we're going to put a statement in here. It's going to say target value greater than 0f. So if our target value is greater than 0, then it's true, which means our fill image is enabled. If our target value is less than or equal to 0, actually, yeah, we'll put equal in there just to make sure. But no, we don't want that. We want it as is, sorry. But if our target value is 0 or less, then our fill image is going to be disabled. And the reason why we're doing this is, I kind of showed you this earlier, when our fill image, or when our health bar is at 0, there's still a little sliver of the fill, because the fill just never goes away. And there is a way that you can manually do it by playing around with some settings in Unity. But trust me from experience, that is a giant pain in the butt, and we don't want to do that. So instead, we're just going to disable it when health is at 0. So that's what we're doing there. And then lastly, if not smooth, then all we're doing is our health slider dot value is going to equal our target value. So that is all we need to do for the health bar UI. So Control S or Command S to save that. Then we're going to go back into Unity real fast so I can explain a couple things. Plus, we're also going to put this health bar UI onto the health bar itself. So why don't we highlight health bar, grab the health bar UI, and just drop it here. Oh, I made a mistake somewhere. And there we go. That needs to be in parentheses. There we go. So now save it. Now hop into Unity, which should compile everything. There we go. So now our health bar UI script is here, and this is our smoothing option. Again, smoothing is going to smooth the health bar's fill. So it'll kind of do one of these, but depending on how fast you want it to go, as opposed to just like snapping to something like that. So again, if you don't want it to smooth, you uncheck that, and then it won't smooth. But the fill rect, by the way, is the is this line right here, which it automatically is pulling the fill itself from there. So that's why we have that set as we do. But now that we moved our health bar UI over to here, we now need to work on the player health UI binder. So what we're going to do is just get rid of all of that. And what we're going to do here is a tooltip, the health bar script. We're going to serialize that field, and then we're going to do a private health bar UI and just name it health bar UI. Since we are only doing one thing that we're serializing, meaning we're going to see it in the inspector, I'm not going to put a header here because the only other thing we need to do now is a private player stats, and we're going to manually grab that one. So what we're going to do now is a private void awake. And in here we're going to do if healthbar.ui equals null. Then we're just going to grab that. So healthbar UI equal get component healthbar UI. And then we're going to check again if healthbar UI is null still with 2 L's, not 3. Then we're going to do a debug.log error. And then player health UI binder unable to find health bar script. And that's all we need to do for awake. So now we need to do a private void on enable. And we're just going to put in try bind. And that's going to give you an error because we haven't created that yet. And then underneath that, we're going to do private void on disable. And we're going to do unbind, which again is going to give you an error because we haven't done that yet. So let's fix that. Let's do a private void try bind. And in here, we're going to do game object player obj equals game object dot find with tag player. And then under here, we're going to do if player object is null. Then we're going to just do a warning because there's no way to really manually get that. So debug.log warning. And then again, our little bracket here, player health UI binder. No player found in scene yet. I don't know why I put that little thing in there. And then we're just going to return because there's nothing else that we can do without that. Then what we're going to do is player stats equals player object dot get component player stats. So it should look like that. And then if stats equals null, meaning we did not find that, then we're going to do another debug.log warning. And then again, our little bracket here, player health UI binder. Player has no player stats component, which it should, but just simply means we didn't find it. So we're going to return again. And then once we get past those two checks, now we can actually do something. So our player stats is going to equal stats that we made up here. So now that we have that, we can do player stats dot on health change plus equals handle health changed. Now this is going to give you some errors because we haven't gone into player stats and done this yet. So ignore these errors for right now. And then what we're going to do here is push current health immediately. So since we're doing this when we're enabling this, we want to make sure that the health is correct. So we're going to do health bar UI dot set health, and then we're going to do player stats dot current health, and then player stats dot max health. All right. So again, we have these little errors. We're going to get rid of these errors very shortly. As a matter of fact, we're going to have more of those errors because we're going to do a private void unbind. And in here, we're just going to do if player stats not equals null, meaning we have it. Then we're going to do player stats dot on health change minus equals handle health changed. And then we're also going to put a player stats equals null. So what we're doing, and we've done this before, I believe, is we're creating a listening system. So what we're doing here is in player stats, we're going to have the listener that is going to listen for things. And then in here, these things are going to tell the listener, hey, we did something, now you need to do something. So we haven't set up the listener in the stats yet, which we're going to in a minute, but that's why we're getting these little errors. They will go away here in just a moment. But now we're going to do a private void handle health changed int current int max. And then all we're going to do here is health bar UI dot set health, and then current, and then max. So all this is doing is the in-between, so to speak, of the player stats and the UI. And it's telling the health bar, hey, you need to set your health to the current, and then the max to the max. All right, so now let's get rid of these little errors, but first, Control S or Command S to save that. And let's go to our player stats. Now, if your player stats are not up on this top row here, there's this little arrow, downward arrow with a line above it. If you click on that, there are all of your scripts. So we're going to find player stats and click on that. And now we are in the player stats. Ignore my dogs. I'll cut this part out. Okay, sorry about all that. Let me just pull my notes back up here since I paused my recording. All right. All right. So let's add that listener into our player stats. So all we have to do is underneath all of our current variables, we're going to put a public event action, and then our little weird angled brackets here, we're going to do int, and then another int, and then we're going to name that on health change. So as soon as we save that, if we go back to our binder, you'll notice all of our errors have gone away. So now what we need to do is actually listen for those changes. So right off the bat, in awake, we need to add on health change, and then question mark dot invoke, and then current health, max health. And that's all we need to do. Well, that's all we need to do for awake. Now we need to do one for take damage. So after we actually take the damage, so after these two lines here, we need to do on health change, question mark dot invoke, current health, max health. And again, that's all we need to do here. And then we need to do it in heal, even though we don't have that. We have it set up, we just don't have anything that will heal yet. So on health change, question mark dot invoke current health max health. And that's it. So make sure that's saved. Double check your health bar UI, make sure that there's no errors. And your player health UI binder, make sure it got rid of all the errors by doing that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into Unity, let Unity compile everything. We're going to click on our health bar, and we are going to add the player health UI binder to it. And now we're going to add some things. So like the health slider, the fill image, and the UI health bar script. Technically, our scripts can find this all on their own, but I'm going to manually enter it by just dragging the health bar to that line, the health bar to that line, and then the fill to that line. Again, it's 100% your call if you want smoothing on or smoothing off. I will show you the difference here. But with smoothing on, we're going to hit play. And there's our health bar. Let's go find our slime. And let's take some damage. You can see how that's kind of sliding down. And then as soon as we get to 0, boom, we're gone, we're dead. Obviously, we're not dead because we haven't done any of the logic for that yet. But notice how that slid down. So let's stop now. And let's go to our health bar and let's get rid of smoothing. And let's hit play again. And boom. Now you see how it's jumping instead of sliding down. So that's why I put that in there, so that way you can choose whether or not you want it to smooth down and up for that matter once we get that, or if you want it to jump down and up. But regardless, that is it. We have everything working for our health bar. So now we have the beginnings of a UI. We can use pretty much that exact same logic for magic, for stamina, for enemy health bars, like if we have a boss battle and we see their health bar. We have the basics down for all of that. And since we have a UI down, in the next video, I think I'm going to work on getting more stuff to the UI. By doing that, I mean adding inventory, and we'll start with currency. I think that's where I'm going to go. I have a plan written down. I just don't have it in front of me, and I can't quite remember what the next video is going to be. But nonetheless, we are going to build on this. We're going to add more enemies, add more UI elements, add currency, add items, and we're going to, from there, build a fully functional video game. So yeah, with that being said, I'm going to end this video here. If you liked it and it helped you out, make sure you give it the big old thumbs up. I do appreciate it, and it does help me out, so thank you for that. And I say it multiple times in every video, but if you have not subscribed yet, please do so, as I have videos like this coming out all the time, and I do not want you to miss anything. And with that being said, thank you. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.